These are my audience members. And now I begin my speech. The Olympics have been around since the early BC and have been a very important part of our world history. The history of the Olympics is very unique in many ways in the sense of how they were in the beginning and what they came to until today. Research on this subject has allowed me to learn and inform about the history of the Olympics. First, I'll tell you about the Olympics from the beginning. Second, I'll tell you about the Olympics as a whole. And third, I'll tell you about the Olympics as they're currently going on today. There are many different myths about how the Olympics actually started. According to Jennifer Rosenberg from About.com, the first actual myth that mostly everybody knows is that Hercules created the Olympic Games in honor of his father Zeus. Another myth that also consists of Zeus fighting his father Kronos and eventually defeating him and creating the games in Olympiad and to show competitiveness in athletes throughout the world. The Olympics back then were very different than they are now. In a timeline recently that Georgia Tech made, it explains that in 776 BC, the Olympic Games actually, that was the first ever recorded game, and there were 320 games. And they were all played in Olympiad, Greece, and they were 4 years apart. There wasn't winter games or anything. It was just the summer games, and it only consisted of one event, and it was a 190-meter race that Cook won, and he received an olive wreath, and he was dubbed a hero for the rest of his life. And the first 13 games were exactly like that. They only had one event of a 190-meter race. And after that, after the 13th game, they added a pentathlon, which consisted of a javelin throw, a discus, a sprint, and jumping events. And the Olympics are special in all the countries because any country or nation can attend the Olympics if they meet the requirements. The Olympics as a whole have been a dream to any athlete, especially through the opening ceremony, which shows all of the nations that are competing in the event, and they also select a flag bearer from that. The athletes select a flag bearer for their country. The facts from the U.S. Olympic Committee include the lighting of the torch, which happens before the Olympic Games, and it happens in the place that the Olympic Games was the 4 years before, which was Beijing. And they transported to, which was here, it was London. So they transported from Beijing to London, and they keep it lit the whole time. And the ancient sports have evolved over time, clearly, from only having 5 events to now there are 26 sports that the athletes can compete in. And the more facts from the timeline, the first ever in the current time, it was in 1896 in Athens, Greece. And there was 7 countries that actually competed in it. And it was England, the U.S., Russia, Italy, Spain, and Greece, and Sweden. The athletes train for years for these events, and sometimes only get one shot to compete. So they try their hardest in every event that they do. The 2012 London Olympics are taking place at this very moment, following the Beijing in 2008. The current games are clearly, they're in London, England. This is the 3rd time that London has hosted the Olympics. The other 2 times were 1948 and 1908. That's the most for any country ever that has been able to host the Olympics. And it lasts from July 27th, 2012 to August 12th, 2012, which is 17 days long. But there's only 16 days of actual competition because the first day is the opening ceremony. The athletes from the U.S. are doing very well in this year's Olympics. There's 529 athletes competing from the U.S. And there are actually more women than men that are competing this year. And as usual, the U.S. and China are the top dogs in this just like in mostly every other Olympic event. They've pulled away from most of the competition, and they're pretty much dominating everybody. And recently, Michael Phelps, in the swimming events, he has broken the record for the most medals ever recorded in an Olympic event, which is 19. In conclusion, the Olympic Games have been very special to our sport history, as well as the history of the world. First, I explained the myths on how the Olympics actually began. Second, I explained the early years and the Olympics as a whole. And last, I filled you in on some of the facts of the Olympics that are currently going on now. The special part of history that the Olympics are a very special part of our history, and they will continue to be for years on. Thank you. Here's my audience members.